large and they need a temperature of at least 10 degrees to grow. If you fancy a sea trip, there's a daily ferry from Los Cristianos to La Gomera, the next island in the chain. It takes about 1.5 hours each way. But what's Tenerife like for the independent traveller? We sent Matthew Collins to find out. Matthew, first of all, what did you make of that sand?
Well, I did get used to all that black stuff, but I actually found the only golden beach in Tenerife, and that was just outside Santa Cruz, where they developed this beach in 1974 by importing boatloads of sand from the Sahara. And I know that you quite like collecting sand, Penny, so I brought you a little sample. And this beach is the only sandy beach in Tenerife, and it's mainly used by the Santa Cruz locals for whom it was designed.
Thank you, Matthew. I shall treasure that. I presume you went to Santa Cruz then?
I did. I found Santa Cruz fascinating because it's the capital of Tenerife. It's a very old historical place. There's a cannon there that's supposed to be the one that blew Nelson's arm off in some battle. But it's a very historical place, and because it's a port and a duty-free port, it has this real sort of smuggler's paradise air about it. Now, you can buy sort of Rolex watches on the cheap. Of course, they're all imitations for about 30 quid. And all these different shops. And one shop I found that fascinated me was a shop called a Sovispan shop. And that is a Soviet Spanish shop which caters mainly for the Russian sailors who are away from home a long time and call into Santa Cruz port. And there you can buy all kinds of Russian goods, and all the signs are in Russian. And I actually bought another little present for you, Penny, which is this real Russian vodka that came all the way from Moscow via Tenerife to Manchester for a penny.
Oh, Matthew, I shall treasure that even more. Did you get into the countryside at all?
Yes, I did. I actually found a book of walks, and I found Tenerife really good for walks because it was so easy to get away from all the commercialised parts and just walk into the country where you could walk through orange groves, come across women sort of harvesting things with sickles in a really old way, and come across men pulling things on with donkey-laden trucks. And really nice for walks in Tenerife.
Sounds marvellous. Did you go to the south at all?
Yes, I did. I actually went to La Gomera, the island that you mentioned, and that's really uncommercialised because, of course, there's no airport there. Very few package tourists go there, and those that do mainly tended to be Germans. But La Gomera I found fascinating for two reasons. Because it's very uncommercialised, the people are still slightly more primitive than those in Tenerife, and they're very resourceful people, the La Gomerians, and the terrain there is very mountainous, and they've developed ways of coping with the mountainous area. And one is by developing these poles called astias, and with these poles they can leap from sort of rocky ledge to rocky ledge like sort of acrobats. I mean, even the old boys can do it. And another thing that fascinated me was this method of communication they developed, because they always used to live in isolated places. There were no telephones, and they used to develop this whistling language that enabled them to carry their voices across the mountains. And they gave me a demonstration, so you'd have men sort of going and that would mean sort of, hello Paco, hello Manuel, how are you doing? I'm fine, Paco, what are you doing tonight? I'm going down the bar. All right, great, Paco, see you later. And they could talk to each other like that, and they will actually give tourists a display if you go to the right place.
Thank you, Matthew. Incidentally, when you're coming back, though the Canaries are Spanish, they have only associate status in the EEC. They are duty-free islands, so most things you usually find in airport duty-frees are available in ordinary shops, often at cheaper prices. For instance, a litre bottle of whiskey at Manchester Airport duty-free is £7. As we mentioned earlier, in a typical Tenerife supermarket, it'll cost about £5. Cigarettes are also cheaper, about £4.50 for 200. Now our airport checklist. It has a large terminal, though it can get busy. Worst times are winter weekends. Eating facilities are limited. There are, however, good facilities for the disabled, but you'll find nothing specific provided for babies. The duty-free is small and expensive. Our advice would be to give it a miss. It's not a comfortable airport to be delayed in. Most of the chairs are very hard plastic. Well, that's our view of Tenerife. As usual, if you'd like to be reminded of anything we said, we can let you have a copy of the complete script for £1.50, including postage. Send a postal order or cheque for £1.50, payable to the BBC, to the Travel Show Guides, BBC North West, P.O. Box 27, Manchester M61SJ, and please mark the envelope Tenerife. That address is also in CFAX page 287. If you're writing for a script from a previous programme, again, please mark the envelope with the one you want. So far this series, we've covered the Aegean coast of Turkey, Ibiza, the Austrian Tyrol, Crete and Brittany. Our next programme is a special guide to Central Florida. We'll be looking at the area around Orlando, and particularly at all the various theme parks. And we'll have no end of tips on how to make the most of America. So until then, goodbye.
And you can see that guide to Central Florida tomorrow afternoon at the same time. And here's that address again if you'd like the script of the full-length travel show guide to Tenerife. The travel show guides, BBC Television, P.O. Box 27, Manchester M60 1SJ.
There aren't that many rainy days around here.
In fact, all life can be found here at the Rastro.
Are you fashion victims? No.
I seem to have spent most of my day hopping around from one bar to another. We can stop filming now, and I'll just finish off this one.
Underway on BBC Two now, Sign Extra, featuring The Really Wild Show, in which youngsters are brought face to face with the pride of lions and other animals. Here on One, Norman Wisdom is put into training with the Navy, with predictably hilarious results in our afternoon film, The Bulldog Breed.